Well, I found it very important, and I learned a lot, through the resources that we have in class. I think for me, the thing that really stuck with me that I used a lot when I was teaching my first year was the times that we were able to go to local schools and be paired up with a student or a few students and actually work with them hands on, and apply the techniques and the things that we were learning. And so it gave me a real perspective on how reading isn't just knowing the words on the page. You have to be able to read fluently. You have to be engaging in your reading, have voice, have character. It has meaning, emotion behind it, and how those are just as important as being able to read the words. We want to make sure that they are comprehending what they're reading. So they taught us a lot of techniques and strategies that we got to practice with students and make sure that they are understanding that. And of course, the foundation of reading is actually reading the words. And so there is always instruction in phonics. And we did a lot of really engaging and fun activities, went hand in hand with all the other things that we did. And so phonics wasn't something we just taught only phonics. It is something that would be taught together with everything else. I would say I felt very prepared to kind of help them understand that reading is fun and it's enjoyable. And, the more that you can get your students to buy into that, the more they're going to want to read and the better they're going to be at it. I really did honestly feel very prepared with my classes at UCO. One of my favorite classes that really meant a lot to me as a teacher was the multicultural literacy classes that I had. I think it is super important to make sure that our students, when they're reading and they're engaging in different books, that they feel represented in our classroom, that they feel a part of the community. And I want my students to see themselves in the books that we read. And that's a part of reading that not everyone really focuses on. And I think UCO did a great job to make sure that as teachers, we could relate to our students.
I think I was one of the few teachers that knew how to even go in and assess my kid. I mean, we had this huge binder, and it was all literacy first stuff. And I had teachers that had been teaching for years but were new to the district asking me questions. And I felt very capable of answering them because, we were so hands-on. I think that's what I liked about OSU is you learned through doing it. Well, with Excel, we spent that entire time with those kids. We got to see them from the beginning and the middle and the end. I am very confident in teaching, and even classroom management and stuff. I feel like, especially in your class, just have to brag on you. You taught everything, and it wasn't just reading from a book.
I think that I was well prepared. It's like some of my kids kind of came in reading, but some of them didn't. I actually did like an assessment with my kids, and so I had them give me the sounds of letters first, and then I would show them, after a while I would have them tell me what letter it is and then tell me the sound. Then I would have them read word families to see if they can match up the word families, and then I use that data to start. And so the ones that didn't, I got to help them with those different stages. So we started with just the sounds and moved to the letters and then started building words, then word families, and then went on to that.
I was more prepared than a lot of people in my situation. We had a lot of classes where we got to work with children individually, creating them a plan to help them succeed. I think by the time I left UCO, I'd had 7 or 8 chances to work with children in person before I was ever a teacher in a classroom. And so reading interjects into all of that, even if you're teaching math, even if you're teaching science. Children need to be able to read. I had a situation where I was working with a first grader who read on a 5th grade level. And when you have 23 students, it can be hard to challenge that student when your other students are just struggling to read at a 1st grade level. So I was able to make a plan for him that would enrich his learning, hopefully very beneficial to him in that and other situations where we were able to make individual plans for children to learn. I'm trying to think. I teach 2nd grade, so they're mostly reading by the time I get them. So the kind of things we're talking about are main idea and more in depth, a little bit more in depth. And I did feel like I could more personalize it to my group of kids because we had been taught almost as if we were going to be making our own content. What I like to do is break my kids up into small groups. And sometimes I do it with the groups that are all kind of the same level. And sometimes the group has one kid who's high, a kid who's medium, and a kid who's not as high. If you group them very carefully and you take personalities into effect, they can really enrich each other and help each other. And that has been something that's helped me with differentiation. Also with differentiation, you can read level text. So like what you would do in a small group with one group isn't maybe what you would do with another. So I think something that's really important when teaching reading is remembering that you're teaching human beings and they're not robots and they're all different and their brains all work a different way.
I feel that I was definitely prepared during my first year. That was one of the things, like I said, I feel I was most prepared for. Knowing how to diagnose reading problems, that's something that occurs every year, and having the tools to know what you're assessing whenever you are looking for those deficiencies in reading, having different ways to engage students. One of the things that I like to do a lot, which is something we did in one of my classes, was Reader's Theater. Each year I like to use the book, The Giving Tree, where I let the students pick different parts of the boy's life and they make their own costumes, and we use iPads to record each other. That's something that we did during my teacher program and something that I use for comprehension, for elevating it to those higher learners. As far as decoding, we do a lot of small group guided reading. As a grade, we all did flex at the same time where we'd have each other's students. And also just to get to know the other students in the grade and also kind of paint a better picture of where your students are. Whenever we go to the library, we can always check out 2 books. I let them do one on level and then one free choice. Because, I mean, they may not be interested in things that are on their level. And if they're not interested, they're not going to want to read. And it's going to be a chore for them. So just keeping that in mind, giving them the freedom to explore what they want, while also, I guess, keeping something that's going to be manageable for them. You want them to build the skills to build their confidence, but also build their interest. Don't be afraid to try new things. With the flex grouping, when I first mentioned it, the first thing that was said to me is that's not how we do that here. But like I kept pushing, and eventually somebody thought it was a good enough idea to where we tried it. And like I said, we have done it. It got to the point to where every grade was doing it. And so just, if you believe in something and you feel that it's worthwhile, don't let, I guess, anybody hold you back, and just be persistent in what you believe to be true.